Digit, how you doing, fam?
Hello there, sorry, just caught up. How are you doing?
Not bad, bro. Not bad at all. What's up?
Can you
What's
hear
your
me?
question? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. Yeah, of course.
All right. What's your question, bro?
I wasn't sure to join today or not because it was kind of not. But it seems like I think I went forward and decided why not go ahead now since nobody was in the queue. No.
Bro, I'm happy to have you here, man. What is your question?
Well, basically, it's more like a small, how you say, small concept. Basically, how Blizzard is approaching with World of Warcraft, and if it's possible, like if they can manage comparison to the MCU phases, no?
Okay.
Like they start off with phase one, like we have now these what you call the elementals, the dragon aspects, the primal candidates, no?
Yeah.
And then phase two, I don't know. I excited like Nagas, Azshara, no? And then phase three, we have like possibly the old gods, titans, and so on. And my question is like, um, which of the phases do you think in Dragonflight or maybe after Dragonflight would fit? Like, for example, Galakrond. Where would you put like Galakrond in Dragonflight? Is
Yeah.
it between somewhere after, before the old gods, or
Okay, so Galakrond is an interesting one because when it comes to Galakrond, the only evidence we have is what Tyr told us and what we read in Dawn of the Aspects. Now, we know that Galakrond was a proto-drake. We know this because Malygos knew Galakrond even before Galakrond became the World Devourer. Galakrond was always considered to actually be one of the more intelligent proto-drakes and also very fair. Malygos actually speaks about the time before Galakrond became the enemy of all proto-drakes. Galakrond was always very fair, looked out for smaller and weaker proto-drakes, tried to help them. And then, of course, Galakrond flies off in a direction and then discovers something. This is, of course, according to Tyr. Now, most recent evidence suggests that Galakrond discovered the waters and that the waters had become corrupted by Yogg-Saron, and that Galakrond then consumed the water that had been corrupted by Yogg-Saron. That is what led to Galakrond being created, right? This sort of aspect of decay, or primal incarnate of decay, if you will, that eventually just consumed the world. Now, where does Galakrond fit into the story? I would say, if we believe Tyr's account of things, he would fit into some kind of old god story, right? Some kind of old god patch. Perhaps the old gods bringing him back as one of their avatars to try and save him, because there's still a lot of questions about dragons. Like, what exactly happens to a dragon upon death? This is not something that is known. And we genuinely don't know what happens to a dragon upon death. The original idea was that, at least for dragons, not proto-drakes, but dragons, upon death, would go into the Emerald Dream. Okay? And that's where they would sort of congregate and defend the tree, the world tree that is planted at the center of it. Mr. Demuria, Ysera, the storyline, if you play through it, it makes it very clear Ysera was never meant to be inside Ardenweald. This is why the Winter Queen was quite upset when they brought Ysera to her and asked her to save Ysera, because that's not where Ysera was meant to be. That's also why Malfurion was to be the one to sacrifice himself in order to get Ysera back, because they would not accept another green dragon inside Ardenweald, because green dragons don't belong in Ardenweald. So the only thing that the Winter Queen would accept is a creature of nature, a creature part of the cycle. Remember, Ysera was placed inside Ardenweald by Elune. So Ysera does not prove where dragons go. Otherwise, we would have found Deathwing inside Ardenweald as well, no? Like, Deathwing would have been there. He's a dragon, and he should technically be part of the cycle, although no evidence has ever been provided that he is part of the cycle. We would have found Malygos somewhere as well. The fact that we never found them anywhere in the Shadowlands, especially... Here's why I actually... Sorry, Digit. I know you want to speak. I'll give you a chance in a second.
No.
But here's why I actually think we are going to find out where dragons go upon their deaths in this expansion. Remember, Blizzard knew in Shadowlands already that Dragonflight will be the next expansion. If Malygos and Deathwing was meant to go into the Shadowlands, do you not think we would have had some kind of encounter with them? Almost definitely, right? The fact that we didn't suggests to me that that's not where dragons go. Digit, what did you want to say?
Oh, I just find it funny how it is, and then it's now again differently.
I mean, the Galakrond story has... Here's the other side of that Galakrond story. If you reject Tyr's accounts, and you instead say that Galakrond is the result of experimentation by the Titans or the Titan Keepers, that changes things again. So what if Galakrond wasn't the result of Old God interference, but rather the result of Titan Keeper interference? Because now we start connecting a lot of dots. Remember, the thing that brought the aspects together, that created the aspects, so to speak, was Galakrond. But what if Deathwing, or Nalfarian at that point, figures out that the very act, the very situation that created the aspects in the first place was a setup? The very things that created them actually created the thing that almost destroyed them. Would that not be reason enough to turn against them? Because Deathwing is infinitely obsessed with destroying the Titan interference on Azeroth. That's the thing that he says to Thrall in the Dawn of the Aspect book. He tells Thrall, I will undo what the Titans had done to this world. That's what he wants to do. He wants to undo what the Titans had done. Now, interestingly enough, before I would have argued, well, that's in line with what the old gods want as well, right? The old gods would probably like to destroy the Titan influence as well. But funnily enough, the primal incarnates believe the same thing. And not Iridikron, right? Because Iridikron is said to have made deals, and we don't know exactly what deals he made, but we know he made deals. So you could argue, well, maybe he made some deals with, like, old gods. But from Razageth herself, Razageth instructs the primalists to infuse... This was something that just blew my mind. The instructions on the primalists are to take the dragon eggs and infuse them with elemental magic. And the idea is, if we infuse it with enough elemental magic, we may be able to wipe away the stain of order. Now, we know that that doesn't actually work, because most of these dragons that are born from this infusion are born either completely crazy, so that magic just drives them crazy, or they die. They come out sort of looking like monstrosities, if you will. But it's very interesting. There's no evidence to show that the primal incarnates work with the old gods. There's literally, at this point, no evidence of that. And yet, what the primal incarnates want to do, and what Deathwing wanted to do, appears to be the exact same thing. To wipe away what they call the blight of influence, or the blight of order on Azeroth. Deathwing says something very interesting to Thrall in the Dawn of the Aspect book, where he sort of makes it seem, he alludes to this idea that the Titans did something unspeakable to Azeroth. That they don't even understand. Like, no one even knows what the Titans did to Azeroth. And that's his mission, to undo that. Right? And yet, when I think about what could have led Deathwing to, or Nalfarian to ultimately accept the powers of the old gods, that is something that comes to mind. Nalfarian infinitely seeking knowledge, trying to understand what is going on here, and happening upon information that reveals that Galakrond wasn't, as it were, the creation of an old god, or just some natural phenomena, but that Galakrond was actually the result of the Titan Keepers experimenting and creating this behemoth as another experiment, releasing him into the wild to see if the Protodrakes could deal with this terrible Protodrake that is now just basically devouring everything in their path. And this, of course, then reveals the 5 Protodrakes that would eventually become the Aspects. But that is something that I could see Deathwing going, screw this. That could make him turn. The bringing back Galakrond? His skeleton is still there. We know that reanimation is a thing. It can be done. I don't know where he is, though. I do see a world in which Nalfarian can be brought back. We have the decay magic could potentially be an avenue for that, Mothy Pants. Nalfarian can be brought back because his heart is literally in the main cities. Right? Like, we still have his heart, so technically speaking, Deathwing could be brought back if they wanted to, although I don't know who would want to bring him back. For Galakrond, it's not necessarily even at this point obvious that the Primal Incarnates would want to bring him back. Right? Mr. Demuria, it's not Deathwing that's in the new raid. It's a visage of Deathwing. It's a portion of Deathwing. Now, that portion becomes a question in and of itself, because it could either just be a portion that is self-sustained but limited in what it can do, which suggests then that the complete corruption of Deathwing was so incredible that even just a portion of him is powerful enough to corrupt classes, because that fight has a lot to do with class callouts and things. Or is it actually like a Horcrux, if you will, right? Because that could also be possible. That Deathwing kept a portion of his soul inside some kind of device, inside this Aberrus, in case he dies, so that someone could bring him back. I don't know. Like, all of that is up for debate. I hope that answers your question, Digit. It's difficult.
Well, let's say Galakrond, okay, and then apparently there's supposed to also be like the Nagas and Azshara again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if I think it's most likely to be like BFA, that Azshara appeared and afterwards the Old Gods appearance. What do you think about that?
So Azshara's appearance is all but written into the story. Right? It's almost guaranteed at this point. I believe we'll see Azshara probably in Tane 2. She won't be a major threat, but we will definitely see her in Tane 2. Now, what happens after Tane 2, we don't know, because Tane 2 launches at the end of this year. Now, if Blizzard then brings out the next expansion, it means that this will be the first expansion in the history of World of Warcraft that only lasted a year. So there's almost definitely going to be probably a Tain 2-7 and then a Tain 3. At least that's my guess at this point. There would be a Tain 3. I think Tain 2 will probably head to Avaloran. Actually, my best guess at this point is that Tain 1-7 takes us to Avaloran. Tain 2 then unlocks Avaloran, or at least a portion of Avaloran, and then Tain 2-7 maybe continues the story of Avaloran, and then the expansion after this one is where we fully go into Avaloran and whatever landmass that might be. But Azshara, I think, is gonna be the enemy for next expansion. Not for this expansion. We may hunt her down in this expansion, and that might lead to some interesting things. But I highly doubt that she'll be a quote-unquote enemy in this expansion. So, at the moment, at least. But yeah, to your question, Azshara would almost definitely lead to some kind of old god thing afterwards. But then also at the same time, I'm not sure, because I'm still always reminded of Azshara right after the fight with N'Zoth. If you go back,
claiming the palace.
Sorry,
or the actual claiming the actual throne of power or whatever.
Yeah, she's after the fight in Ny'alotha, she says that she's going to claim the seat of ultimate power. I'm talking about right after the fight in Circle of Stars, where we defeat her. The moment that N'Zoth grabs her, there's that fear in her eyes. That moment of shit. What the hell, right? I think she genuinely thought that this would be her moment to be free. And then, of course, she got dragged back in. So I don't even know if she is actually aligned with the old gods. I don't know if we'll see the old gods after her, or maybe the old gods will be a story that runs parallel to hers. I can't answer that. Digit.
Yeah, okay. We talking about Azshara now. I wonder if actually I read that there was a legend of Azshara being serving to Sargeras. Is that correct?
Sorry? That Azshara was linked to Sargeras.
Yeah, in the beginning. In the beginning, she did.
Yeah, when Azshara was still the queen of the elves, Sargeras did appear to her, and he offered her unlimited power, basically to become his queen. And this is why she tried to summon him through the Well of Eternity, which then the amount of power that he basically needed in order to be summoned corrupted the Well of Eternity and then caused it to become unstable, and that ultimately caused the Great Shattering, right? Or the Sundering. So, yeah, she was for a short time allied with Sargeras. I don't know if she is still allied with him, considering the fact that he basically just left her, right?
Yeah.
Once her kingdom sunk to the bottom of the ocean, Sargeras did nothing to help. Not that he would have necessarily been in a position to help her, but he genuinely did nothing to help. So it might be that she... I don't know what the seat of ultimate power is, though. But I don't know what that means. And I've spent many an hour thinking about the seat of ultimate power. We know now that it refers to something in Avaloran. At least insofar as she claims that she managed to pierce the Umbral Veil. Whatever the hell the Umbral Veil is, we don't know. But yeah, it could be anything. I genuinely... When it comes to Azshara, it really is just one of those let's wait and see moments. We're gonna have to wait and see what she wants to get up to.
Yeah, they are definitely writing her with her like intentions very close to the chest.
Yeah.
Like you have to really just watch and basically just watch and wait, and then see what happens in the fallout. You can't really predict or scry what she's doing.
She speaks in riddles, and that makes sense. She is considered to be the most powerful mage that's ever existed on Azeroth. So, you know, she would be very intelligent, and this means that she would have plans within plans for her power. It's also not even obvious whether or not Azshara is an enemy, because Azshara, from what I understand, she's never wanted the end of all things. She's never wanted to kill or destroy everyone. What she wants is to be the queen of all things. That's what she wants. She wants to be the queen. And she was genuinely not a bad queen, just FYI. She wasn't a bad queen. She was very much loved by everyone. So there is a world in which Azshara becomes an ally rather than an enemy.
Yeah.
Could be, right? That would be wild, though.
I am gonna have to cut you off on here, Digit, because we've got some other folks.
No, I just cut myself.
Digit, thank you so much for the question, bro. Really appreciate that, man.
I think, I think this will do for the time being.
Oh yeah, definitely. Take care of yourself, bro.
Yep.
All right. Peace out, man.